Mike, you covered this Montreal Canadiens team throughout all their struggles all season long. How surprised are you that they're now just one win away from the Stanley Cup Final?
How could you not be surprised, Gino, given what we saw all year long? And I know the pieces were there, and we saw it in bits and stretches, and some guys were playing well and some guys were not. Some parts of the game were on point and some parts were not. But it was a year where they were up and down, sometimes really good, sometimes not so good. So I don't think anyone would have seen 6 weeks of this kind of caliber of hockey that they're playing. And it's all come together for them at the same time. You think about, they're counting on Carey Price to be great. Well, he's been that. They're counting on the veterans to step up and be really good. Well, Weber and Petrie and Stahl and Perry, they're all being really good. They were hoping for young guys to grow into their own. And now you have Caulfield and Suzuki and Kotkaniemi making things happen. And rarely do all these things sync up at the same time for long stretches. And that's what is happening right now in Montreal Noodles. They are on a 6-week bender where everyone's on top of their game. And given how close the NHL is, that gives them a great chance to win in advance.
Absolutely. And everyone got excited at the starting of the season when this team really started out of the gates on fire and were taking teams to the woodshed. And they were saying, well, there's no weaknesses in their lineup whatsoever. From first line to fourth line, they've got depth, they're D, or they're long, they're mean, and their goaltending is fantastic. Can't lose sight of a guy like Jake Allen, who was brought in to give Carey Price some nights off. Now, in the regular season, it didn't work out. But MJ, you just talked about everyone playing to their capabilities. Yes, they have to play within their capabilities, but it's also in a stifling system because they work hard to get the puck back. There's no room in the neutral zone. And if you take a look at the teams they've gone up against, look at the top 6 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the top 6 for the Winnipeg Jets, and now the top 6 for the Vegas Golden Knights. They haven't been able to break through offensively. That's not just good D and good goaltending. That's great team unity, and they've done it really since game 4 or 5 against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
What has been most impressive for you about the Habs?
I think they have, I'm going to say everyone. I'm sure there's been somebody, but they have everybody playing as close to as well as they can at the same time. I mean, I think it's remarkable. Like, they got guys, almost the whole roster's playing within, to pick a number, like 10% of the best of their games. Like, they just, it doesn't matter. It seems they need a goal. Kotkaniemi scores for the first time in forever the other night, and, Caulfield's giving them some juice. Those big D are doing just what they envisioned them doing. Like, it's been super impressive. Like, they're not a fluke. Like, they deserve to be here. Yeah. They were awful coming down the stretch, right? Like, somebody had something last night. If Calgary would have beaten Ottawa twice more, Montreal wouldn't have been in the playoffs. Like, it was that close. And yet it doesn't matter anymore. Man, remember a couple of years ago, St. Louis was in dead last. They fired the coach. They grabbed the goalie, who wasn't even in their organization. They didn't want him. They had him as the third goalie in Providence. And then Binnington comes in, Berube comes in, they become the best team, and they win the cup. Like, you don't have to be the best team for 9 months. You got to be the best team at the best time. That's right. What they are right now. In this series anyway.
You know what? The St. Louis example is one that we have not brought up enough because it's probably a perfect one for the Habs. Now, I don't know if they'll close, and I'm assuming I'll be in a position in a few days where I will apply the exact same prediction that I have in the first round and this round. If they play Tampa, I expect Tampa to win. That doesn't mean they will. That's why you play the games. I thought Vegas would win. I thought the Leafs would win. Winnipeg was a different story. But St. Louis, they got hot at the right time. They were built differently, right? Like, they didn't have superstars. They didn't have guys who, they didn't have McDavid, McKinnon, Sid. They just had a really balanced quality team that was playing almost a perfect system and executed that perfectly. And since that cup win, they've kind of come back to earth a little bit. Like, St. Louis is still good, but they're not great. Yeah. And that's the truth about the Habs. This is not like a dynasty team, but it doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. How you feel about them on paper or how you might feel about them next year. They deserve to beat the Leafs. They deserve to beat Winnipeg. They deserve to be up 3-2. This is not a fluke. They're outplaying Vegas.
And add one thing onto that too, like even the way that they're built. Like you're talking about the goalie Binnington. Now Price has been great, but like that defensive core, that was one thing I remember we keyed on with St. Louis. Pietrangelo, Parayko, like, you know, long and big and mean. Edmondson was there. Yeah. Like, you know, they did their job. And I thought that defensive core, because I kept thinking to myself, okay, if they're going to do what everyone says that they're doing, there's going to be a parade to the penalty box last night. And that wasn't the case because both teams adjusted. And Montreal's D still got it done. Sherratt and Weber and Edmondson and Petrie were mean and big, but they got help from their forwards. Like, that's the one thing. Montreal, yeah, they can play gritty and they can play in that gray zone. Well, last night I thought it was going to be a parade to the penalty box just based on, you know, the narrative heading in. There was a couple penalties, and rightfully so, but they adjusted. Like, they deserve to be exactly where they.
And man, they can kill a penalty too. Like Vegas never even came close.